Joining us now, Brian Brinsfield on the line from Columbia, Tennessee. Brian, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm making it. I'm making it. It's been a tough week, but I am here and ready to see what we can pull out. Well, we're off this week, aren't we? It's like I said, it's been a rough week. So I hadn't, I don't even, I think it's Thursday. It's Thursday, right? Tonight
It
on the
is
radio.
Thursday. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I've been kind of out of it. So, but I'm good and War Eagle.
Yeah. War Eagle. For those of you who don't know, you mentioned last week on the show that your dad had a stroke and was in the hospital. And unfortunately, you lost him the first part of this week. I know that's been tough for you and your family. And we, again, send along our thoughts and prayers for you. And we never really got a chance to talk about your dad on the show that much. We mentioned him a little bit, but I wanted to talk about that if it's okay with you.
I'll do my
Um,
best.
I think that is a very interesting relationship. We were talking just a second ago. It's not unique, I guess, but it's somewhat rare in football. I thought about that a lot last week when I
Yeah.
did that post.
Yeah.
Uh,
I appreciate you doing that.
yeah, and your dad was a national champion
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Troy State, then I guess,
That's right.
in 1968.
Yeah.
And you now are a national champion at Auburn in 1993. So, in the last, how long has that been? A few months since they announced that?
Yeah, a couple months.
That must have been something that you guys really talked about and shared and was special to you.
Yeah, I think probably more so for him. It meant a whole lot to me, obviously, and but it meant the world to him, I think. And we've got our little celebration coming up against Mercer next weekend, and I really wanted Dad to be there, but he'll be there, but just not on the field. And but it is maybe not rare, but unique, or vice versa. That you've got two national champions in the family, and whether or not some people want to call it, and I don't care whether some people want to call the '93 team a national champion or not. That's not a problem, but. To have a team that was a national champion in a NAIA at Troy State, and back then it was a team that probably could have played well against an Auburn or Alabama or Georgia because of the talent they had from those teams that transferred into Troy, and probably could have hung with them, and then we go undefeated. So pretty rare and unique in that respect.
Yeah, and we're talking also about the coach of the Troy State team was Billy Atkins,
Yeah,
who played at Auburn, right?
on the '57 national title team.
Yeah.
So
And,
another title holder.
and you played with his son at Auburn.
Ace was a year ahead of me, I believe, and
Mhm.
he took me on a recruiting visit, I think, actually, and uh, but yeah, Ace and I played together, so a lot of ties. And Coach Atkins was the lead scout for the after he quit college coaching college ball, was the lead scout for the 49ers, in the Phoenix, well, they were the Phoenix Cardinals back then. And he would come to the Senior Bowl every week, and I think I've mentioned this once or twice on the program, but he would come to the Senior Bowl every year. And when he did, my dad and him stayed in close contact, and we would go, again, being from Fairhope, Alabama, the Senior Bowl being in Mobile. The South team practiced at the time for many years,
In Fairhope.
decades, in Fairhope at our
Yeah.
at our municipal stadium, and which is now Jodine Field. And we would go, under my home field, and we would watch the guys practice with Billy Atkins, and then go to dinner. And so I got to know him from a very early age, and a lot of the players on the national championship team. I sent a text out that Dad had passed, and would send updates while he had his stroke. and to a lot of his teammates. And they were a very close knit group of people. When you win a championship like that, not a lot of people can say that they've won a national title. So they stayed really close. And to this day, they meet almost yearly. It used to be where they met at the 25th anniversary, then every 10 years, then they go five. And as we're
Right.
dwindling down, they go about every year.
Yeah.
And so these guys, my dad played center, was an all conference center, all um, league center, and then an honorable mention All American for 2 years, and just an anchor on the team from what they've told me. And believe me, my dad's told me many times, but I had to verify it with the other people, the
Yeah.
other guys, because my dad's a good storyteller.
Yeah. And I see all the pictures of him with the Auburn clothes on, shirts on, jerseys on, whatever. I
Yeah.
know he was uh, obviously a big follower of yours. But when did you first start to realize that kind of thing, that he was a national champion, that he was an All-American,
Yeah.
that kind of thing? Do you remember when that first popped in?
It was early. Because the people they were so close knit. They would pop by the house if they were in Mobile. Al had one of their quarterbacks lived in Montgomery, and Danny Grant, one of their All American wide receivers, lived behind us in Spanish Fort in the Estates. And I had a really close relationship with his daughter Lindsay, who was an all-state. I think she was the Alabama's player of the year, high school player of the year for the state of Alabama, out of Daphne High School. She played volleyball, and basketball, and was the state high school player of the year somewhere in the mid 90s. And so I was very, very familiar with these guys. They would always stop by, and Dad was just such a social guy and a gregarious guy that these guys wanted to be around him. So anytime they were close, they would get together. So seeing some of his trophies, and my dad wore his national championship ring up until the very end. Another ring he wore that I was very proud of was our '93 ring. We got two of them. We got a silver ring and a gold ring, and I gave him my silver ring, and he wore that more than probably he did his national championship ring.
Yeah, I know that was a source of pride for him when that happened at Auburn. And you got one back earlier in the '90s, right? Or not?
So we got those both. We got them. We got one from the school, the silver ring with the blue stone in it from the school. And if we
Right.
wanted to, we could pay a little bit of money and get a gold ring with some stones in it, and we did. And so that's the one I have, and I gave that silver one to my father. One of the best memories I have is my last Tiger Walk against Georgia in '94. We were undefeated going into that game, 20-game winning streak. And my dad had his video camera, which consisted of half the VCR back then. You had to put the whole VCR tape
Put it on
and
your shoulder, right?
and put it
Yeah.
on your shoulder, on
Yeah.
a shoulder strap, and then have the camera that sat on your shoulder. So
Right.
it was a big deal. I remember
I
him
remember
lugging.
those days.
Yeah, I remember him lugging it to Washington D.C. on a family vacation, and I don't know how he did it. But he had that thing, and I had told my mom, okay, be ready to grab it. So Patrick Nix and I walked every Tiger Walk my whole career together, side by side. But I right when we came out of Sewell Hall, my dad was on the right, and I grabbed him, and he walked Tiger Walk with me. And it was a moment I'll never forget. He was ready to play when we entered the gates at Jordan Hare. He, I think, could have run through a brick wall. He hadn't experienced that, in quite a long time. And I think he was more fired up than anybody in the state of Alabama.
Got
At
that
the
old feeling, huh?
He did at the end of Tiger Walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When growing up with him playing football, being a
Yeah.
national champion, a lot of people who have a dad that played football, they say, well, he pushed me into this or whatever. But do you remember? Did he? I know he wanted you to play football, but
Yeah.
Did he push you? Did he let you do your own thing or what?
Yeah, no, not at all. He didn't push us at all. My dad played all sports growing up. He was a really good baseball player. He went to Avondale High School in Atlanta, growing up, and they won the state championship in baseball, his junior and senior year, and won the state championship in baseball his junior and senior year, and played for it 3 times. So they were really good. They had a really good program at Avondale back then, and Avondale would always play Valdosta. So the North and the South would end up playing. It was always Avondale and Valdosta. So Dad played, really, baseball and football were his two, and he was really good at both. But Kevin, my brother, and baseball was kind of my first love. I played football because you just played all the sports. You played
Yeah.
basketball, football, and baseball, and so I just played football. But I loved baseball. Me and my brother were both catchers. And my brother was much better than I was. He played at Daphne, went to some state championships at Daphne, and won a Little League World Series there. And But my dad just, he never ever told us to go play. He encouraged us in anything we ever did, whether it was singing or, I was in the ensemble. I was one of these kids that, me and a friend of mine named Jeff Miles, we were in this ensemble called the Baker's Dozen at Fairhope, and there were 12 of us, but a Baker's Dozen is 13. The irony of the Baker's Dozen was our teacher's name was Miss Baker, so we were the Baker's Dozen. That she made the 13th person, but we had to sing the Star Spangled Banner at the national anthem at Fairhope football games, and I'm sure Joe Dean hated it because I'm standing out there singing the national anthem while he's going over our last minute details, and I'm standing there in shoulder pads in my football uniform, me and Jeff Miles singing. He was our wide receiver, singing singing the national anthem, instead of listening to him. So he was probably really ticked off.
And then you ran back to get in the game.
And then ran back to listen to what he had to get cussed out. But whatever we did, he was there and always backed us. My dad owned an insurance company for property casualty in Mobile forever. And so he could make his own hours. And my dad, I don't remember, I'm sure he did. I don't remember my dad missing a practice. I would look up in the little bowl at Fairhope practice field. We practiced on campus at Fairhope, but there was a little bowl there. We call it the Dean Dome because it never rained. But my dad would park up there and
You
roll
couldn't
down.
get out of practice, huh?
No, never. And it parted. The clouds parted around the Dean Dome, but my dad always just sat up there and rolled down the windows and watched practice. Is for as long as for my whole career, baseball. Did the same with my brother at Daphne. Was always in the bleachers. Always traveled. Just a sports junkie.
You'll always remember that. You'll always have great memories. And I know it hurts right now, but your dad played center.
Yeah.
You never played center really until you
I
got to
did.
Auburn, right? Or
No,
did you?
no.
No.
I started out as a quarterback. We ran the triple option at Daphne,
Yeah.
and I guess they never saw me throw, because I was a catcher. I had a decent arm, but I guess they had their quarterbacks at Fairhope when we transferred to Fairhope because I lived in Spanish Fort. So the progression was back then there was no Daphne High School. The start of Daphne High School was my senior year. We played them my senior year, the very first ball game, and beat them in the very first Daphne Fairhope game. And the way it went was I started out as a quarterback, and then I got to Fairhope, and they said, "No, you're going to be a center." And I went, "Oh, okay, well that didn't make any sense." But okay, so I played kind of both, but was behind Toby Shields, and Toby went to Alabama, and then I took over center.
I got you. So
Yeah.
that my point was, I guess your dad kind of liked that and maybe gave you some tips at that point, huh?
Yeah. And the way I learned the long snap early, but I would throw and really pitch because we were in the option. I would draw circles on pine trees in the front yard, and I would pitch those circles or throw to those circles. I really could throw. And then Dad would come home and say, "Give me the ball." And I'd throw him the ball, and he would take off his national championship ring, and because it would fly off if he didn't, and hand it to me, and he would pick out a circle and hit a snap the ball. He was the long snapper at Troy as well, and he would snap the ball to the circle on the tree, and he would, if he hit it, he would go, still got it, and then walk off. And if he didn't, I'd have to chase it, and he'd go, until he hit it. But I don't like when somebody does something better than so I would practice that until he got home, and I just got good at it at a really early age.
So
So
you
I
could beat
started,
him.
well, until I got decent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I was a quarterback that could long snap. And it was weird.
yeah. So he was. I never knew him, but kind of we talked maybe a little bit back
Yeah.
and forth through you,
Yeah.
but a real character, right?
Every person that sent me a text is said something about a story. I mean, my dad could tell a story, now whether my dad whether he was in the story or not is remains to be seen. Now he I think he's put himself in other people's stories. He's made himself the main character of other
Yeah,
people's stories.
yeah,
He said, "Well, that's a good story. I'll just make they're not here, so I'll just make myself the character in that story."
yeah.
But he's made some good ones, and in fact, one of the funny stories that he's always told is in high school, he missed three extra points in a state championship game against Valdosta, or a semifinal game, I think, and they lost by 2 points. And he was a starting linebacker, starting center, place kicker, and he missed three extra points in a pouring down rain, muddy football game that I just found a picture to verify that it was actually muddy and raining. I didn't believe him for a long time, but
There were ducks on the field, right?
that's right. But he said he was walking off the field, and this guy said, you lost me $200 or $300 because that guy bet on the game. And Dad said if he had it to do over again, and if he had any quick wit about him, that he has now, he would have gone, yeah, but I won 500. But he didn't. He was worried what he was going to get in the locker room, that he missed those three extra points and they didn't go to the state championship.
Yeah, yeah. I know that feeling.
Mhm.
But one of my favorite stories that you told me last week, I think, was the story when you told him that Auburn had fired Hugh Freeze. And is that something he said often?
No,
Like,
no,
get out of here.
but it's something you could hear him say.
Hmm.
You could hear him say, just when he was barely lucid and really couldn't talk. And I went in early in the morning one morning last week at around 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I said, "Dad, hey, it's Brian." And he perked up and said, "Hey, Brian." And I said, "I love you." And he said, "I love you." And I said, "Well, we Auburn fired Hugh Freeze." And he said, "Get out of here." And you couldn't understand it, but I knew what he said. And I said,
Yeah,
"You get out of here." And he said,
yeah,
"No, get out of here." And I got him to say War Eagle, and that's the last words he said
yeah,
to me.
yeah. I thought
War Eagle.
maybe that's something he said often to people. Get out of here.
No, but
Yeah,
and he may have,
yeah,
it was it was an unprompted response from him that I didn't say I love you or something like, and he said it.
yeah,
And my dad had some pretty big strokes, so his brain wasn't really firing much. So for him to think of some words on his own was kind of weird.
yeah,
I was trying to prompt him to get him to say something
yeah,
by saying we fired Hugh Freeze,
yeah.
and he did.
Just an
He
instinct.
absolutely
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah. Well, great stories. I know you'll remember those for the rest of your life. And we're thinking about you and your family. You know that.
Yeah.
And all of our listeners and all of the people that have called me this week to check on you and your dad and your family is incredible. But I know one thing I really liked is that you're going to have a service, I think, this weekend.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have another one down on the Eastern Shore where you spent a lot of years.
Yeah, well, I grew up there. I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, and you and I are both Tar Heels. But we moved to the Eastern Shore when I was 3 or 4, and so I've lived there all my life.
Yeah.
And I say I'm from there, and we moved up to Tennessee to be closer to my brother and his twin girls in 2020, and then I followed in 2021 to be closer to mom and dad because I knew they were having some problems with their health and not getting younger. So So we're going to have a little thing up here with the people that they've got to know, and then we're going to go down and have a little get together down at Eastern Shore Baptist. I think it's going to be on the 6th in December. If anybody's listening and wants to come out, I'm not sure the time, but you can certainly get in touch with us or on comment on wareagle.com or on our X page or our YouTube page, and I'll be glad to give you the details of that and celebrate my dad. And then we're also in next fall going to meet with his championship team at Troy and spread a few ashes on the Red Wave field and let him be forever part of that field.
Fantastic. We'll give out the details whenever you get them here on the show
Sure.
too,
Yeah.
as we get closer to that. But appreciate you sharing that with us, Brian. And again, we're thinking about you. Let's talk some college football. You want to?
Let's do it.
Let's come back in just a second, and we'll talk about the coaching search and a little bit on the off week about some of the other games around the SEC with Brian Brinsfield right after this.